I refuse to be governed by a Ugandan named Zoran Kwame Mandani. Get out of my country. He was never running for the mayor of a town in Malaysia. Musk took over and, made comedy legal again and brought back free speech. Basically brought all the Nazis back on the app. Everyone from Alex Jones to Nick Fuentes, you name it, they're all unbanned and they can all spread their vile bigotry to the entire world all the time. There was also a pop-up of the meme accounts, and the meme accounts, Arsler Finder, the MAGA Nation, like lots of them. Turns out that they were not in fact Americans for the large part. Arsler Finder turned out to be an Australian. MAGA Nation turned out to be from Eastern Europe. There have been just an endless amount of these accounts that became monstrously huge, and in large part because hate sells on the internet. And if there's corners of the internet, especially mainstream ones, like it's not the, by any stretch, most popular social media app. That's obviously things like YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that. But it's still a top, 50 or top 20 even, I would say, social media app in terms of daily users kind of thing. If that mainstream media app suddenly has a whole bunch of Nazis on it who are spreading a whole bunch of white supremacist propaganda, well, yeah, they're going to blow up and do very good. And now there was a financial incentive because Elon Musk unlocked certain amounts of profit sharing from advertising, even though advertising doesn't exist on the platform as much anymore, at least not mainstream advertisers. But you'll still get cryptocurrency ads, scams, all the worst, weirdest things you can imagine are the remaining ones. But more than anything, Elon Musk decided to take a very big hit, and what he did was he kind of invented an MLM scam. He wanted everybody to buy these little things you see right here, the blue check marks. And so what he did is he initially tried different ways to do that. He rolled out his blue check mark plan, and then so everyone could buy a blue check mark. Well, it was a disaster because everyone started impersonating really famous accounts, which was one of the funniest days on Twitter ever. That's where you got people like Joe Biden talking about how much he was jerking off. Like, I'm jerking off over here. Oh my God. And you're like, wait, is this the real Joe Biden? It was just so ridiculous. But he eventually realized what a disaster it was. And so he turned off the feature and then said, hey, by the way, you can't impersonate accounts without putting impersonation in your name. That was just fucking one of the funnest days on the website. And so the idea being that if you pay a certain amount, I think it's like $10 a month, you get a blue check mark, you give Elon Musk your money, you become a verified member, and then you get to unlock certain features, like you get money for your posting depending on how many impressions you get. Now, I knew this was going to be a scam from the jump, but I never paid for it. And so what ended up happening is all of a sudden when he unlocked that payment feature, really big accounts, Tim Pool, Ian Miles Cheong, Brian Krasenstein, they all started marketing it for him, because what he did is he specifically gave only a handful of people enormous payouts. So they are the only ones who are getting things like $10,000 a month. Like, I don't know if you remember when the Brian Krasenstein brother, he posted a picture of his check holding up his like $20,000 check, being like, this is how you can earn so much money on this website. I'll teach you how to do it. It's incredible. Elon Musk has basically really given power to the people here, all this kind of shit like that. And it turns out that that's just not true. I found out early from Matt Binder, who was given a punishment checkmark. He was one of the early journalists who was given a checkmark out of spite, because Elon Musk realized no one was going to buy these blue check marks. No one cared. And all the big accounts that used to have them already, like myself, that was verified, he took our check marks away, and then thought that by doing that, we'd all be so desperate that we'd just be like, all right, fine, I'll pay you, God damn it. And some people did, but most people didn't. And then after a couple of years of that, he basically was like, you know what, fuck it, I'll give them the check marks back. And so people started getting their check marks for free, including myself. So I then got a blue check mark for free. And once I got a free check mark, I was like, oh, cool. Well, I'm already on the website. I'm going to turn on this profit share and see what it's like. Immediately after my first month getting the same amount of impressions as Tim Pool, who said he was getting $10,000 a month, my first payout was $45. Yeah. So just want to let you know, it's a scam. It's 100% a scam. Tim Pool, I looked at the metrics. The two of us were getting, pound for pound, the same amount of likes, the same amount of retweets, give or take, but obviously they're not identical. But like we're getting similar amounts of reshares within our own communities, right? I make a very viral LGBTQ plus post that does numbers. He gets a very viral, black people do all the crime in the world. That gets shared very well amongst MAGA, and then he's the one getting the $10,000 a month. I'm getting 45. So just to explain that the whole thing was ultimately a scam. But it also was the rise of the meme accounts, and all these big meme accounts that are popping up, and they have been dominating the website for a long time, right? A lot of them are very mean-spirited. A lot of them are like women taking L's, the Arsler Finder you've already heard about. Some of them are just like this one here, MAGA Nation. And once Elon, over the weekend, introduced a brand new feature, which was that he was going to have a location sharing feature, which will show where the account was created, what country it was originating from, or if that person is using a VPN, or sometimes what app they were using in which country, right? So sometimes it would say, like, in my case, Canadian Android app, like you founded the Serfs account on an Android. I didn't even remember that. But so my account, and here's the big revelation for anyone who didn't know, is based in Canada. So that was, not something that was a shock to anyone who knows, the totality of my work. But for some accounts who'd been pretending to be Americans, it was a devastating day. This was basically their 9/11. Like all over the internet, it turned out that so many of the big meme accounts were not, in fact, Americans. And in a lot of those cases, they were pretending to be Americans. There's a difference between being obsessed with American news. I want to say that because America is the world's superpower. America has the most military bases and the most amount of countries around the world. There's over 800 that we know about, and there's a lot of them that are just secret. But America dominates the planet. And because of that, it does force a lot of the rest of the world to talk about and concentrate on America and talk about American politics. This is what comes with being the world's superpower. Just for the Americans who aren't completely aware of that, sometimes they're shocked to see that Australians post a lot about America. The Finnish post a lot about America. Europeans overall post a lot about America. People in other countries talk a lot about U.S. politics and policies because it directly affects their lives. And that's one of the reasons why it may seem as a American, because I'm not one, that people are obsessed with you, that people are obsessed with your politics, people are obsessed with how your elections go, people are obsessed with what you do. And the reason for that being, again, because you are the world's superpower, you have the world's largest military, you have a lot of, imperialism and satellite fucking colonies and neocolonialism going on around the world, a lot of resource exploitation. You fuck up a lot of different parts of the world, including parts in the Middle East and Africa and stuff like that. Like there's a reason why the rest of the world might focus on American politics. But for a lot of Americans, especially the ones who had been loving a lot of these accounts, they were shocked. And the right-wing Americans were especially shocked because in some cases, they're in the middle of their own feuds right now, right? Like Matt Walsh, for example, he is in a very big feud with the grifters, and he's in that feud primarily because his boss, Ben Shapiro, is targeting the grifters, and also a lot of the grifters for a long time. Nick Fuentes, their leader, has been saying that Matt Walsh doesn't talk at all about Israel. They say all these things about him. I'm not going to repeat the racial slurs that they use, but they basically try to point out that he's in fact cucked by either that nation state, or you can fill in the blanks here, right? You can take that to wherever you want to be. And so immediately people like that were pointing out, because a lot of Groyper accounts are not actually all based in the United States. A handful of them were based in completely separate countries, some of whom were always open about that. Some of them were like, we're an international white supremacist Groyper movement. But other ones had been fooling or pretending to be from a different country, and then, that got revealed. I think, is it Katsuya's girl or something like that? That was one of them, like, huge Groyper accounts that turned out to not be an American. And not a surprise to me, but a lot of the MAGA Nation style, fan accounts of a lot of the Trump family. It turns out that they're based in other countries. These were some of the big revelations. So MAGA Nation X, Eastern Europe. Dark MAGA, based in Thailand. MAGA Scope, based in Nigeria. The MAGA Beacon, based in South Asia. So, these accounts, by the way, massive, the promoters of a whole bunch of pro-MAGA, pro-white supremacist, rhetoric and stuff like that. And a lot of them often do, again, pretend and or talk like they are in the first person Americans, right? Like, not in my country. We are at war. They killed us. They took away Charlie Kirk. And at the same time, you're doing all of this from South Asia. So, you know, people on both sides, by the way, liberal accounts are like overjoyed to find out how many MAGA accounts turned out to be from other countries. MAGA accounts are overjoyed to find out how many liberal accounts turned out to be from other countries. This wasn't a uniquely just MAGA thing, right? There was a lot of Zionist accounts, a lot of pro-Zionist accounts that turned out to be from other parts of the world. And then obviously a lot of people were being like, oh my God, you've been talking as if you were from Israel. This is not an account from Israel. What is going on? Just as there was a lot of accounts that were pro-Palestinian that turned out to not be from, and this one I think is really telling. There are Palestinians who live in a lot of different parts of the world, and in those other parts of the world do activism. And that's not a surprise to me because of how terribly they're treated by other nations, namely Israel and the United States. A lot of Palestinians who live in Palestine are having very bad lives. They're undergoing a genocide right now. So as a result of that, there are refugees who have gone to other countries and then set up in those other countries accounts. And when they set up those accounts, they start doing obviously pro-Palestinian activism that heavily focuses on the United States, because the United States is the primary funder, military supplier to Israel. So they will talk about that. So these are not all the same. I just want to add that, all right? Not every situation in which I'm going to expose these accounts right now is necessarily indicative of someone intentionally pretending to be someone else because they were doing that with malice. There are accounts that have been very transparent this entire time. I think Americans were shocked to learn that the huge American political account, Polling USA, was Canadian. I always knew that because Polling USA has a second channel called Polling Canada, where they have talked frequently about being Canadian. The Polling USA channel has also talked about being Canadian, by the way. They just frequently post about American politics from the Polling USA account, while the Polling Canada account is where they post and talk about Canadian politics. But then, again, that was where a lot of people, including like a lot of the right, were like, I knew it, Polling USA, this liberal fucking channel was the entire time a Canadian, all that kind of stuff. So this whole thing has been a clusterfuck. Some of the biggest revelations that happened was the fact that one specific account, the Department of Homeland Security, the day of this feature getting rolled out, was revealed to have been located in Israel, which obviously made both people on the right and the left in the United States go, what the fuck? That's really strange. Then, and I'm assuming this is 100% speculation. This is me putting my Alex Jones, tinfoil hat on right now, okay? But I think that's one of the reasons, amongst others, that Elon Musk shut the feature down between when it got rolled out on Friday and then when it came back online on Sunday. There was basically like a, almost 20-hour period where he shut that feature down, but then the feature came right back. So they were clearly, according to Elon and the people behind the scenes, tweaking it to change some things. Now you might notice a big change is that gray checkmark accounts, their locations aren't revealed. So I don't know if that was because the government spoke to Twitter behind the scenes. We'll have to wait until Matt Taibbi tells us the truth. Until I know, I'll never truly understand. But behind the scenes, it does seem like there was a number of government authorities who were probably like, hey, by the way, we would prefer if you not reveal the locations of these social media accounts because, they could have implications for national security. And obviously Twitter complied. These are all pro-Israel accounts that are operating from other parts of the world. I think these ones are based in India, including Vivid, Proud Jewish, Proud Zionist, former IDF soldier, 59 hostages, bring them home, Inevitable West, Afghan, Zoroastrian, Eagle, Cheryl E. So all these turned out to not be based in Israel. All very massive accounts, by the way, in their own way, which is also pretty shocking. This was one of the bigger ones for the pro-Zionist movement, Bring Our People Home. This account was also located in India, connected by the Indian Android app. And also, this was one of those accounts that when people exposed it, because it had been a very well-shared account, constantly talking about the hostages, spreading very pro-Zionist propaganda. This one actually deleted the account completely. So that account is gone. So there is no more Bring Our People Home at Bring Daughters on X. The account no longer exists. They just nuked the whole project. A lot of big Donald Trump and MAGA family accounts. Donald Trump is the best president, was located in Eastern Europe. Fan Trump Army, South Asia. MAGA News, South Asia. Commentary of Donald Trump, Africa. Not, I mean, that's pretty generic, just the entire continent. You'll have to guess where. Baron Trump official account, news, Eastern Europe. Trump, Nazara Global, Nigeria. Mr. Trump from the Philippines. William Brown, United Arab Emirates. So other pretty extreme examples there. This is what I was talking about. Someone posted this when it went live. Homeland Security, date joined July 2008 in Israel, account based in Tel Aviv, Israel, connected via the Israel App Store. And so, as you know, this account is run by like groypers, because they've been posting so many cringe-ass groyper memes all the time, shit that I couldn't even remember, old-ass alt-right stuff like the Moon Man, and, you know, like doing actual straight white supremacist Nazi posting, you know, Manifest Destiny paintings about the genocide of indigenous people, and then saying, like, you know, keep America American, make our country free again, stuff like that. So they've been doing Nazi posting on Maine for a long time, and the day that this feature went live, the account had showed itself to be located in Tel Aviv, Israel. A lot of people said immediately afterwards, because the whole system went down, that happened to be a mistake. And that could be, by the way, I want to be completely clear here. There is no actual direct evidence that this account is 100% based in Israel. You have to trust that the implementation system that Elon Musk and his coders have done is not only accurate, is not glitching, or is not displaying false information, or people aren't using, you know, VPNs and getting away with it. But also, all of the gray check marks, the government accounts have now had this feature taken off. So you can no longer look at government accounts to find out what location they're from. But they, of course, posted this, being, you know, memeing their way through it. Apparently, I guess that wasn't enough, so they actually posted, I can't believe we have to say this, but this account has only ever been run and operated from the United States. Screenshots are easy to forge, videos are easy to manipulate. Thank you for your attention to this matter. There's been a lot of people who actually recorded videos to make sure they weren't just seeing something, trying to be like, okay, well, how can I prove this down the road? This is when you actually open up a feature on browsers that allows you to see sometimes the HTML or JavaScript in order to show what you're demonstrating isn't fake. I do want to add, though, you can still, it would take a lot more time, but you can fake this as well, right? Like, you could actually fake this and all this text and just have this as a video playing. The argument would be that the people doing this were like, I don't have the time to edit all this. I just wanted to show, you know, that it was 100% actually accurate by demonstrating that. But it is hard to, yeah, it's hard to mess up IP location data. But again, you could present this as false in the video that you're making. I want to stress that it's still not 100% proof. But, you know, there was enough, like, we're talking thousands of people who had gone to the account and shown this page at the time, that now it's kind of hard to put this back in the bottle in terms of people being like, what the hell? But the account has been changed. It's gone from the original posting to now account based in the United States. So that's, I don't know what to say, whether or not it's conclusive. It would be a very tedious After Effects project. It would. Like, you would have to essentially write out all the code, all the JavaScript or all the HTML, and then fake and forge the parts that you want, and then record yourself recording a video of fake JavaScript browser side on the way. It would be a lot of work that I think most people would not go to the trouble of doing simply to prove a point, but that's the argument being made right now, and there's not conclusive proof without the Wayback Machine, which I went on for that day to look at it, and the Wayback Machine does not display the information for that day, which is also kind of curious, but also inconclusive, again, if you're an internet searcher looking for that kind of stuff. Milo Yiannopoulos posted, I love how utterly ashamed every single Canadian is from being from there, referring, of course, to the amount of accounts of Canadians, I guess, who got exposed as being Canadian accounts, who talk a lot about American politics. You know, there were people, again, in my replies where I've never been shy about this. I post a lot about America. That is true. I actually post a lot about Canada on my social media as well, because I like to teach people about the fucked up stuff that goes on in the country. But I've noticed that my replies reply guys who are mostly MAGA types, they've never really popped up in the Canadian posts. There are reply guys for the Canadian ones, but I think it's because the algorithm is not feeding them the Canadian posts. So I don't usually get the MAGA guys in the replies of the Canadian posts being like, you're finally talking about Canada or something like that. Normally it's Canadian chuds who pop in there to talk about their own particular, you're a race traitor, Lance, blah, blah, blah kind of shit. But it's also kind of funny coming from Milo, someone who actually pretends to be a straight person for a crumb of access. So I was like, I think I'd be more ashamed to pretend to be straight, to be honest with you, just to be able to get on the fringes of the right again. Just anything it takes, you know. He's never even bothered with the rebrand. Like some people, like, you know, Baked Alaska tried doing a left-wing rebranding but didn't know how to, and then failed horribly. All that kind of shit. Like that stuff isn't working out. But you know, that's what Milo was posting. But speaking of Canada, by the way, it turned out a lot of the Alberta secession accounts, the people who are trying to get Alberta to separate from the country and join America, to the surprise of no one, are based in America. So what do you have to say about that, Americans? Huh? You Yanks? You're trying to get Alberta to join you, to secede? You're just trying to start a civil war here in Canada? Because, again, it would benefit you greatly, I guess, to have Alberta be the cherished 51st state, as Donald Trump says all the time. But, yes, a lot of the blue check-marked Alberta and Canada Freedom accounts turned out to be American accounts. And also some of them are located, once again, in other countries completely far away. It's not a surprise to me at all that the same thing that was happening in the United States, where you had all these like very prominent right-wing accounts that were posting a lot and pretending to be Americans. Well, there's Canadian ones too. I'm sure, I haven't seen this, but in Britain, I'm sure British people could tell me there's probably a similar phenomenon of very big accounts, meme accounts. Maybe not like Tommy Robinson is, I think, British, because that's pretty definitively provable. But I think for some other big accounts, I'm sure there's like, you know, Keep Britain for the British style accounts with like, you know, avatars and stuff like that and the blue checkmark, who do a lot of racist posting in the country, who are not in fact from the United Kingdom. And then once you do the location sharing, it reveals that they're not. And I can explain all of this because I know some people got confused, and I saw some people posting. It's not a surprise to me that Matt Walsh and the far right immediately got really nationalistic, because that's part, I think, of the entire reason why Elon Musk would do something like this. It hyperdrived people's online nationalism instantaneously, to a point where even I felt a little bit susceptible to that, trying to have fun on the internet that day, where all of a sudden there would be people being like, fucking Canadians should never talk about America. I never want to see another fucking Canadian say anything about our fucking country ever again. And then there were Canadians who were posting similar things, like fucking Americans trying to promote Alberta separatism. They need to get the fuck out of our country, shit like that. And everyone's just started feeling these feelings of, oh shit, I've been separated back into teams. It's teams. It is. Well, what's my team again? I need to be part of my team because again, we're all born into these teams, and they're very important. And yeah, maybe I am really mad at India right now, and all these people who are posting about my country, and that's what the fuck? What makes them think they can do that? And they're spreading all this racism. And you know what? Maybe they're responsible. They're responsible for all the racism in this country because they're all part of the psyop, and there are all these bot farms, and these bot farms have been posting from other countries because they want to spread bigotry and fascism here, and that's why. That was how the liberals on the other end were responding, right? It was wild. You were seeing all these different forms of extreme racism or xenophobia or just nationalism being hyperdrived. And I have a thing to say that actually was one surprising, beautiful thing, is that I noticed that a lot of lefties, because we are internationalists, because I believe in the beauty on one end and the potential for the human race, I care about international politics. I care about people in all countries. It's one of the reasons why people often say, why aren't you one of the ones who thinks that we should, like, you know, nuke America to destroy the American empire to liberate the world? Because there are hundreds of millions of Americans, including tens of millions of children, who in my eyes are innocent for a lot of this, And there are a lot of people who oppose the American empire, who oppose the American military, who oppose American imperialism, and who oppose the idea of them being the world police, the world extractor, the climate change baddie, all that kind of stuff. I don't think that is going to achieve the goals that you want if you want to simply think of other countries as nation states that you can simply try and destroy to liberate everyone else, because that just hasn't worked out throughout history. If it's being done by imperialists for their own intentions to be able to expand their colonies, or if it's being done because you feel that you're part of some resistance or liberational force, whatever the case may be, when it comes down to it, we have to kind of see humanity, because we have to save the world together, right? Like, we have to solve climate change together. It would be in the interest of the world if more Americans woke up and they decided to actually hold big oil accountable, or British people, because British people have BP and a lot of other companies as well. They're the old colony superpower. They also should wake up and nationalize these companies, or hold them accountable and get them to fit the bill for a lot of the damage that they've wrought upon the world. And this includes the tech companies as well. This includes, look, this is not a novel idea. It was done for Big Tobacco. If you don't know, Big Tobacco for a very long time had done research into their own products to find out whether or not big tobacco was bad for humans and if it caused cancer, and surprise, surprise, it turned out it did. And rather than actually reveal that to be, hey, by the way, we found out that our products are bad for humanity, and so in the interest of preserving humanity, we're going to go forward and release this information, as well as we're now going to work to take a lot of the additives out of our product, because we realize that the stuff that we put in to make it way more addictive is actually accelerating the rate at which people get cancer and bronchitis and all these other problems. Instead, they wanted to bury that information. That exact same thing happened with big oil. They have done research for years into the damage that climate change was going to have upon the planet. And once they found that out, rather than reveal that to the world and start talking about transitioning to other forms of energy, because they're not saying, hey, we should get rid of energy, but you can actually get energy cheaper from other mechanisms if you actually work on those industries in the way China has, for example, they buried that information. And they didn't want the world to know. And then they spent billions and billions of dollars on trying to politicize climate change, trying to say, hey, by the way, it's actually Al Gore and the Democrats who are trying to do the climate change. By the way, we can look at this whole situation as one in which this has been so heavily politicized. Maybe we can obfuscate it a little bit by getting more people to talk about other things. Hey, have you heard about the patterns of solar flares? Have you heard about how the Arctic ice and the way the Earth and climate works is actually more of like a wave, and that we're just going through a phase right now, that we're going through a heating, but then we'll go through a cooling and all this kind of shit. They're doing that obviously because they don't give a fuck. And very recently this just happened in tech, where there was research done into Facebook, and that research has just revealed that they knew and they found out that if youth use less of their products, less of their social media, that younger people had much lower rates of depression and anxiety. So their product was directly responsible for accelerating and increasing depression and anxiety amongst younger generations. And they did the same thing as climate change and big tobacco. They buried it. They wanted to get rid of it. They didn't want people to know about this because it's going to hurt their bottom line. It's going to freak out their shareholders, their investors. And this is what seems to happen with these corporations, these monoliths, these titans of industry, these international, entities that we think sometimes as being untouchable. They effectively get to a point where they don't want to help us all, humanity that is. They care more about their product, their bottom line, their shareholders, and their fiduciary responsibility to them. That's how this shit goes. And so I think the idea of now being like getting more nationalist, which if you ask me, why did Elon Musk do this? Because on the surface, it seems like the coolest thing he's ever done since he's taken over the website. Some people were saying it's the first good thing he's done. Because again, it did expose a lot of these fake accounts, and the majority of them being either, pro-MAGA, very fascist, white supremacist. It exposed a lot of them as people from other countries pretending to be Americans. And there's a couple of reasons why he did this, I think, if I have more time to, I had time to stew on this, right? One of them was the result was hypernationalism, which Elon Musk wants. He is a white supremacist. He is a Nazi. And by definition, he wants countries to become more nationalistic so he himself can manipulate them. He has no problem all day fucking up your shit in America as an immigrant. If you didn't know this, Elon Musk's grandparents were Canadian. They were Canadians who were part of a Canadian neo-Nazi movement, a technocratic movement, which was burgeoning in the United States, and his grandparents were part of the Canadian division of that, and they actually started trying to push and promote this neo-Nazi technocratic fascist movement for big corporations and tech companies to take over all of these democracies. That was his grandparents. And when Canada entered the war in World War I and joined, World War II, when they entered World War II and joined with Britain to defend Britain before the United States did, they had to get out of the country because they couldn't do that anymore. They wanted to go somewhere that actually had similar levels of racism but still benefited white people, so they moved to South Africa. And in South Africa, where Errol Musk and Elon's parents are born, they actually were very, very ardent followers of the South African white supremacist movement to again oppress the majority black population there, participate in apartheid. They wanted that, and they like that, and that's part of the very essence of who Elon Musk is, who then immigrates to America, and once he immigrates to America, starts fucking up shit, and he's still doing that to this day. Like, part of what he does all day right now is talk about and tweet about Britain. He's not British. He doesn't live in Britain, but he really wants to influence British politics. So he is posting nonstop right now because he knows there's an election coming up, and he knows Reform UK is going to win if he keeps pushing these racist buttons. So all day he is turning, in the same way he turned Twitter into a MAGA app, he's now turning it into a pro-Reform UK app because he wants to get a far-right government in there, and most likely he will succeed because it does look like the trends are moving towards the far-right coming into power in Britain. And all of that is being done by talking about immigrants, migrants, these rape gangs. I don't know if you've heard about this, but apparently there are just thousands, tens of thousands of rapes taking place every single day in in the UK, and it's a result of their immigrants and their immigration population, mostly Muslims, who are coming in there to rape all these white women, and it's out of control. Look at the numbers. It speaks for itself. He's doing this nonstop all day. He's posting about this on Twitter all day. He's posting about this, he's talking about this on Joe Rogan. Like, that whole weird clip of him not understanding Lord of the Rings, that was just so he could talk more about immigrant rape gangs in Britain. So he was talking about how the Shire and the Hobbits were these humble British people, and then it got to a point where they get invaded, and once they're invaded, the whole thing falls apart because strong men, hard men protect the Shire, and then that's the reason why that was the point of Lord of the Rings, was that the Shire is actually protected by the strong men, wizards, knights, kings, etc. And then if it wasn't for them, then the Shire and the Hobbits would completely fall apart. And that's the exact same thing as Britain now, being invaded by these hordes of orcs who he calls the Muslim invaders, who he then points out are doing all these rapes. That's not what happened in Lord of the Rings. That's not what Lord of the Rings is about. That scene is not non-existent, all that kind of stuff. But that's one of the reasons he's pushing all that kind of stuff, even though the story is ultimately about how strong men could not resist the temptation of the world's most powerful weapon, the One Ring, and instead it was actually a humble hobbit who was capable of resisting it long enough to get it to Mount Doom to, again, throw in the fires there, even though he does get tempted at the very end. But, I'm not going to ruin the book for you if you haven't read it. Aruna now was calling out Secular Talk for saying, lol, every MAGA account on here is from a Bangladeshi bot farm. We really got psyoped into fascism. And is saying, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? I think one of the reasons being is that America and Canada did not need to have people from other countries spread racism in racist countries. Just so we're clear. Some other people were talking about how this whole thing, fascism in the US was a psyop, etc. And all these countries are now demonstrating that. I want to be very, very clear about my read on the whole thing, is that there is a financial incentive for people in a lot of poor nations that have also been devastated by colonialism, which includes India, by the way, by British colonialism for fucking years and years and years, who now live in certain states of income inequality, vast amounts of poverty, who have realized there is an ability for them to generate income by promoting things that sell well on the internet in other countries. And in Canada, in America, racism does really well on Twitter, online. They were selling us our own racism. So we're completely clear. Yes, they were pretending to be someone else, but that didn't create racism in our countries. They didn't invent that. They promoted it Sure, but they were promoting it on apps in America and in Canada where a lot of racists were liking and retweeting and reposting their memes, were reposting the shit that they posted. That's what was taking place here. And Musk gave them a financial incentive to do that. Musk gave them the ability to make money off selling racism to racists in North America. I saw that he had to deal with a lot of people posting stuff that was upset about this. Can white people not use racist memes to make fun of BJP IT cell accounts? Makes my life really hard as a Tamil leftist. Harder, please, and thank you very much. And then the Trotskyist Traveler. Take a hike, bozo. Dark woke is back. These are Groyper memes, just so we're completely clear, okay? You're reappropriating Groyper memes, but you're not doing it to be, hey, I'm going to take, say, a Stone Toss cartoon made by a Nazi, Stone Toss, and I'm going to flip it like a lot of people in the queer community have done. There's an entire subreddit dedicated to taking Stone Toss cartoons and changing the meaning of the cartoons from a Nazi meaning to a pro-LGBTQ one. And that is fun, that is cute, that is adorable, and I like it. And I think it's a good way to steal a hateful message and then to take its power away in the same way that people reappropriate slurs, right? I can't say it on Twitch, but if I was just on YouTube, I would call myself enough slur, no problem. I got no problem with that because, again, it takes the power of those words away, but it doesn't hit the same when the people who are straight call you an F slur. In the same way that white people shouldn't call black people the N-word, and it's completely fine if black people use the N-word, right? Like that's kind of the point of reappropriating something to take away the maliciousness and power that it once had, and then use it for your own devices. But if you happen to be in that group, and then you're simply using the racist memes from the racists, again in this situation, it's just racism. You can call it dark woke, you can call it edgy, you can call it whatever you want, but this is someone doing a racism to a rune, That's kind of the whole point here, and this sucks. I don't want to see it. Like these memes specifically are Groyper memes. They're from the Groyper community kind of stuff, right? And you can tell because like a lot of the Groypers love it. A lot of the racists love it. The Quartering was saying Kyle Clancy accidentally admits that MAGA isn't racist by posting a racist beam. And if you click on this, you'll see that it's just like it's filled with a whole bunch of right wingers loving it as well, because there's not going to be really a way to defeat fascism with fascism. That's the shitty part. I'm not trying to cancel anyone here. I still think, obviously, Kyle does really good work. I obviously think that a lot of people who are hosts of progressive channels and progressive podcasts do good work. But there's a difference between, hey, you shouldn't be nice to Nazis. I agree. You should be cruel to them. Because in my eyes, this shit has gone too far, and there is no benefit to doing the liberal dance of when they go low, we go high. Fuck that noise. But I don't think you can destroy them or defeat them by tearing other people down in the process. It's an all or nothing. It's a zero-sum game. We're not free until we all are. The reason I keep trying to repeat that shit is because if you go after Nazis by taking down gay people, for example, if you try to say, hey, by the way, there's this gay Republican who is openly gay, I'm going to mock him for being gay. Well, then you're just making fun of the gays, right? If you, like, I've seen a lot of these so-called dark woke posts. If you're doing it about a hypocrite, that's totally different. If you're going to go after Benny Johnson, right, who's in the closet but is clearly gay, Nick Fuentes, who's in the closet but is clearly gay, Steven Crowder, who was at one point kind of bisexual but now it seems like he's more gay than anything. If you want to go after them for their homophobic bigotry, that's so different than a MAGA conservative who is openly gay and then just posting shit about him, being like, you drown in cum, you bottom fuck, all that kind of shit. Like, that person is an openly gay man, and you're just attacking him now for being gay. So you're just attacking gay folk, right? Like, I don't see how rebranding this as dark woke doesn't make it homophobia. And this is, again, not me trying to be like, so that's because I'm the most pure, and I'm trying to police all of you because you have to be as pure as I am. But you shouldn't call it something else thinking that this, like, is changing what it is, right? Like you can't rebrand it. You can't call this, well, no, but we're fighting the fascists with transphobia. That's why I'm misgendering all of these bigoted trans people. So I'm calling them by their dead names now, because that's how I'm going to take them down, because fuck them. They hate everyone. I'm not going to respect their pronouns because at this moment in time, they're right-wingers. And then it's like, right, but that also means that you don't respect people's pronouns at all, or you don't respect not using a trans person's dead name at all, because you'll just let it go the second the person is shitty, right? Like the person being shitty, go after them for being shitty. If like, so that happened so hard with Ian Miles Cheong that headlines were coming out where it's like Ian Miles Cheong arrested in Malaysia, presumed jailed or executed, stuff like that. And he woke up, he's like, what the fuck? He's like, yeah, sorry for my haters, but I'm alive. Also, why are so many people so excited about this? Like this is wild. One of the reasons why I think he gets the amount of hate he gets and the scum shittery that he's done in the past, by the way, if you didn't know this, I improved the audio quality because it was pretty bad from the old recording, but this is a recording of him, and content warning, basically admitting to having swatted a guy, and that swatting resulted in a flashbang attack that also resulted in a dog being permanently blinded. And you can just hear in his voice how he responds to someone calling him out about that. He laughs, right? Like, this is what level of a scumfuck this dude is.
Okay.
So, like, I don't live with my parents. I don't care what my parents think. I mean, I do to an extent.
Of course, everybody does. Yeah.
I'm not beholden to, like, anybody else. So,
Yeah, you know, like I said, I got
people who like lives with their parents, and it's like, oh my god, my parents were in our office. Oh fuck, you know. So I'm offering some constructive criticism. This isn't to goof on you or whatever. I'm a nice guy, and I think you'll find that. Like I'm a compassionate person, but as a compassionate person, I have to tell you that your plan is full of fucking shit. And
dude, it was fucked up.
That's totally out of line.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Totally didn't deserve to get flash banged and all that. Totally apologize for that.
She's born now. She's born.
Oh, send her my regards. Oh yeah, but yeah, no, seriously though, that was a fuck up.
Now you're laughing. You think that's funny?
No, absolutely not.
Back when he was super popular. There's nothing more freeing than not giving a damn about what other people think of you. Seriously, try it. And I want to show you the slow descent after it got revealed that he, in fact, no longer lives in Malaysia. He has moved to Dubai. And that's what the location feature revelation basically revealed, that he is living in Dubai and posting as if he's an American frequently. I'll show you the examples of it. People started calling him out, and you'll notice the amount of ratios and likes he now gets. His account bottomed out. I should have screenshotted the likes on this, but back in this day, he could say just random wanker stuff like this, and he would get like 90k likes easy. Anything he was posting was just getting so heavily promoted by the algorithm because Elon Musk, again, loved him for being an Elon Musk reply guy. You're wealthy and you travel a lot is not the own you think it is. Quote, Trump declassifying the existence of aliens doesn't concern you if you're not American. Delusional. Again, just 25 likes. One quote tweet already. He's on, you know, the way to being ratioed there. Ian, the amount of privacy violations of the new X locations update is staggering. Welcome to the new normal, where most users are treated like cattle, and some people get more protection than others, all because some other people can't stand it when a small group of people criticizes them. So he got real defensive and he got real upset. And obviously a lot of people online were, you know, calling him out for his history of posting in the first person as if he was an American citizen who loved Trump and MAGA and all that kind of stuff, including this. Leading reports said 449 sexual predators have been arrested under 2 major operations with 224 children rescued, per FBI Director Dan Bongino. This is a big reason I voted for Trump. So you either committed voter fraud, sir, or that never happened. Yeah. These are lies. Look, X isn't American only. Go to Truth Social if you want that. I refuse to be governed by a Ugandan named Zoran Kwame Mandani. Get out of my country. He was never running for the mayor of a town in Malaysia. But, yeah, sometimes he forgets. You know, sometimes he would just post shit like this, and then people would call him out and he would delete it. Here's another really good example. We are in battle for humanity. Fight. This was around when Trump was shot. It's real. We are now in a war. I am 1,100,000% behind Trump now. We are at war. This was the first shot. They killed one of us today. He was doing a lot of that around the time that Charlie Kirk was assassinated as well. A lot of we kind of shit. And obviously they were still getting some pretty big likes, this one not so many, but 2K here, 38,000 here. I'm 100,000,000% behind Trump now. We are at war. This was the first shot. Like, he's always been really good at playing the game, right? Like, he knows what posts would get a lot of MAGA and right-wingers to share it, or he would just like, he's kind of also a shotgun poster in that he posts every couple of minutes for hours all day. I think because in large part he was one of the accounts that Elon Musk was giving a large payday to artificially inflate his account and give him huge amounts of money because he for a while was one of his biggest reply guy super fans. That's obviously all changed. And why would Elon Musk throw him under the bus? I mean, I think the answers are obvious. Elon Musk is choosing to do this because it's going to further his agenda. You have to remember, Elon Musk knows all of this stuff already, but he gets to see behind the scenes stuff that we didn't get to see in front, on the front-facing end of Twitter. But he knew that all these meme accounts, the MAGA accounts specifically, a lot of them were not based in America, but he was nonetheless just allowing it to take place for a long time. And like I said, once he unlocked this feature, what it has done is really hyper and ramp up the amount of nationalism online. And the amount of nationalism and the schism that's happening right now. I think he's also found a way to try and court or steer the course of the MAGA splinter that happened between the America First crowd, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, etc., and the Trump Forever crowd, Cat Turd, Ben Shapiro, Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, also the pro-Israel crowd, which is included in that as well. This has been the big splinter that's going in two directions. And like I said, he's trying ways to manipulate that and manipulate people on a large scale through social media. He does have most likely meetings where he sits down with his team and they discuss issues about, hey, by the way, how can we, we didn't have a lot of success in this arena trying to manipulate elections the way we did with, say, Donald Trump's election. I want to really influence the UK election. What are some ways we can do that? What are some, things we can do? And he's never doing any of this because he wants to make Twitter more honest, more transparent, or stuff like that. Everything that he's doing is in his own self-interest. So if he does do something like this, which did obviously benefit a lot of people who were like, holy shit, a lot of these accounts are not actually based in the country that they say they are, it's for his own means, right? Like he's essentially trying to manipulate all of us. When he did this post, by the way, someone else noticed that another account, Cato Van Wyck, was making the same posts. So I guess this was his burner account that he forgot to switch over to, which is now locked down. But in this one, he pretends to be from New York. But I think that's going to probably stay locked down. But this is what one of his defenses is. Ian Miles Cheong lives in Dubai. He's not American. Wow, what tipped you off? I've only said this about 1 billion times. As I've demonstrated. No, you don't. I think I have the one tweet by him where he pretended not to be an American, and I think that was around the time when he was being investigated by his own government, and that's when he started posting, I don't say this often enough, but I do have to say I love Malaysia, and then posted some photos of Malaysia, and then everyone was like, holy shit, that's the first time I've ever seen him acknowledge the country or post about the country that he's supposed to be living in. He never talks about that, and he often talks again that he's part of the MAGA movement and part of the right-wing movement, not like the international right-wing movement, which again, right-wingers are less about that. They're a lot more about nationalism and hyper-nationalism, so that's why I think he's always kind of pretended to be an American right-wing reactionary. But then something wild happened. There was so much hate. His account was so fucked up. He was getting so many people ratioing him and saying, fuck off. You're not American. How dare you speak about us? You're not white. How dare you talk about us? You can't promote the white race, all this shit. The backlash was so intense that he started sounding as if like all of a sudden he was flipping his entire political ideology. You got to remember, he was also one of the biggest figures in the anti-woke gaming era, and still has been for a long time. One of the people who says, this game is woke because it's got a woman. This game's woke because it's got a lesbian. This game has a trans person. Woke, woke, woke. I don't want to see black people in video games. I don't want to see black samurais, all that kind of shit. That was him posting a ton of the stuff, reposting grums, them being frenzies, all these kind of things were coming out all the time. And now, listen to him. He sounds like the exact opposite, because I think he is realizing for the first time, in real time, the level of bigotry that he himself helped create. Like, you have been fueling this for years, pouring gasoline on this idea that, again, video games have and entertainment has been destroyed by woke ideology, Sweet Baby Inc., DEI, all this kind of shit. You were totally fine posting that every day without thinking twice about it. Now what happened? All these Americans realize that you are not American, you are not white, and you live in Dubai. All of a sudden, they're all now calling you out, and they're all talking shit about you on a regular basis. And suddenly, you're like, "Wow, this feels mean." These were my people. All these MAGA types, all these American MAGA right-wing reactionaries used to love my shit, used to repost my shit, used to like and quote tweet and all this kind of stuff. And now all of them sound hyper-nationalist. Which they do, of course. If you look at Matt Walsh's posts, he has been hardcore hyper-nationalist. He's just like non-stop posting all this kind of shit where it's just like, if you aren't American, I don't want to ever fucking hear you talk about America again. I am so fucking sick of non-Americans talk about our country. Worry about your own stuff. Worry about your own problems. Stuff like that. And so you see Grum say this. I really don't give a shit about opinions on games made in the USA if you are shilling from Turkey or Jordan over identity politics. Your country treats women much worse. And then he pops in. What does them being in Turkey or whatever have to do with their criticism of some game being trash? Am I not allowed to criticize Naughty Dog or Bungie now? Are you suggesting all groups are equal in their opinion? What have Turkish contributed to gaming in general? Nothing. So why would their opinions matter? We have 99.99999% of people who talk about video games done to contribute to their development. And wow. Are you just realizing for the first time that every single person who complains about video games being too woke or too feminist all day, all of a sudden, it turns out a lot of them don't even really either make things, create art, or even enjoy the video games or play the video games they pretend to hate. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people have been calling them tourists. This is one of the reasons why a lot of people, myself included, have been doing this posting where it's just like, you didn't even play this fucking game. Now he says this, something I never thought he'd say. Only white Americans are allowed to have opinions on video games now. And as you can probably expect, this does not do well for Ian Miles Cheong, who has a massive account that was filled with a lot of right-wing white supremacist chuds, and they did not like seeing what they consider to be wokeness or identity politics before their very eyes. And it's also kind of funny because Grums isn't actually white, so a lot of people were trying to point that out to him as well. But it's interesting that that was a reflective thing that happened as a result of the entire uncovering. I was like, that's very, very fascinating to me. So today he posted this, and also not doing well. His account, it just got nuked. I don't know. I should look up how many followers he lost. I mean, he's still 1.2 million. I say the quiet part out loud, bro. I want to thank my followers for actually being plugged in. You're some of the most curious, informed people out there, willing to hear different perspectives and challenges your own assumptions. That's a rare thing, especially compared to the confused newcomers who just stumbled onto my page and can't figure out what they're looking at. I genuinely value the conversations we have, your opinion, blah, 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 blah. I've criticized Nick Fuentes and Hassan Piker. I disagree with plenty of their views, but they have a right to speak and people have a right to listen. Censoring or deplatforming them doesn't fix anything. It just exposes how fragile the real censors are. I've joked about deporting Hassan, but let's be honest, that's never going to happen, and pretending otherwise doesn't change the reality that he's tapping into frustrations and fears that are very real for millions of young people. And sure, some people will call it hypocritical because I've been targeted as a foreigner for having opinions and for having enough influence to make people like Matt Walsh uncomfortable, but my stance on censorship has never been about personal feelings. It's always been about principle. Free speech doesn't need to favor me for it to matter. It needs to exist for everyone, especially with people we disagree with. If you want a stronger culture, a smarter society, and a future that isn't built on fear, we need more speech, not less. Open debate now is how adults handle disagreement. Censorship is how cowards do. So he's picking a new lane. we're seeing a rebranding in real time. This is what he's now going to go down the, I would say maybe a little bit more centrist, but definitely the I'm a free speech, always have been, always will be type of advocate. And also, not true. Not true in the slightest. If you look at the history of this guy, he has been super pro censorship. He's even debased himself in front of the eyes of the world and lied about like what he's done. Tried, but didn't like doing crime. GTA 5 required shooting police officers in the opening scene. I just couldn't do it. I'm glad shooting cops in Cyberpunk 2077 is completely optional. Never finished GTA 5 either. Just always, whatever Elon Musk says, oh, I just want to grovel. I want to grovel so hard. Oh, yeah, I hate shooting police officers too, benevolent leader. Except, that's a complete and utter lie, because he has written up to 255 Gamer Ranks articles covering GTA 5, including descriptions of personally killing or evading virtual police in the game's single-player mode. So, yeah. Like, why are you always doing this? Why are you always lying? You know, just to please Elon Musk. And for a long time, it worked. It worked. There's a lot of love that was coming from that corner of the internet, of the interwebs. But
so thank you so much to our patrons for making this show possible. We could not fund it without you. And if you want to join, please check out patreon.com/theserfs to unlock bonus episodes, uncensored content, and all the good stuff. Thanks to Anna Loves Riley, Addercap, Bobby Lasers, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hegbard Salim, Multimondi, Omni, Political Papi, Preston Kroll, Quiet One 85, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demmel, Tigwick, and